Hi, my name is Dong, and when I first started my career as an animator in Japan, I animated on paper. I quit paper about 2 years ago to go fully digital, but I think everyone should try animating on paper at least once. Animating on paper has many advantages over animating digitally, and I think it builds good habits that newer, pure digital animators often lack. Today, let's try animating something traditionally on paper. We'll animate this quick scene of some character acting. First of all, the biggest advantage of paper is its cost of entry. To get started with animating on paper, we need a light table, and I got this one off Amazon for about 1500 yen. We need a pencil. You can use your favorite one, but I got this Mitsubishi Architectural Drafting Mechanical Pencil with a 2B lead, and you can check out my video on pencils to see what other tools I prefer. You'll need an eraser. Any decent one will do. You'll need a peg bar, and you can get a nice metal one for about 1000 yen, or be cheap like me and use a plastic one that's like a third of that cost. And finally, you'll need animation paper with the peg holes cut. You can get ones with the layout template printed, or you can just get the blank ones. These generally sell for 100 sheets for 1000 yen, or around 500 sheets for just over 3000 yen if you get it in bulk. As you can see, you can get started animating for as little as 4000 yen, or $40 US. Compare that to the several hundred or even thousands of dollars to get started animating digitally once you factor in the cost of your computer, the software, and your drawing tablet. I like to use something like this layout template that shows where the cutoff area for the screen is. But if you don't have one of these, you can just make your own. On a blank sheet of animation paper, just draw out a 16:9 rectangle and use that as your template. Turn on your light table, place a blank sheet of paper on top, make sure the peg holes are matching, and we can start drawing, starting with our character. We'll keep it simple and have her in a frontal pose. I recommend checking out my video on drawing heads, but we'll start simple, skull, and then the jaw, and the shoulders. We'll get her eyes in there, just below the halfway point of the head. I think that a larger forehead is cuter. Then we can get the mouth in there and add the rest of the details. Finally, let's add the hair for this character. This architectural pencil lets me draw with this soft, thick lead, and I think it's just a really pretty line that has such a great sense of warmth and life. A line like this is hard to replicate in a digital workflow, and I think this is one of the great strengths of animating traditionally. To finish an animation cell drawing, make sure to label it, a 1 in this case. I'll be animating this straight ahead, meaning one pose after the other, and it's probably not the best way to animate, but it does give pretty natural and spontaneous acting in return. I want this character to cry like the way the kids at the zoo cry when they see an animal they haven't seen before. For the next key pose, we'll have our character move her head down, eyes strained with her brows furrowed. This would be our character attempting to hold back her tears before going into a full wail, just like the kids at the zoo. We'll top off the drawing with some tears on the bottom of our character's eyes. It's like the dam is about to break. We'll finish by labeling this drawing as A2 and writing a timing diagram for the movement between A1 and A2. And we'll probably need about 3 in-between drawings for this. I'm kind of just figuring out the timing as I go. With experience, you just tend to get a feel for how many in-between drawings you need to get a movement to work. For the next drawing, A3, let's have her quiver, like she's shaking her boots. We can do this by doing a quick trace over, but varying the line slightly and drawing her eyes slightly more in a closed position. Moving on, I would like our character to move her head down even more into an anticipation pose in preparation to go into a full cry. I would like to use the horizontal space of the scene more, so I'll have her anticipate into screen bottom left with her eyes closed. Here's a technique that you can do very easily when working on paper called peg shifting. Take your drawing off the peg bar and shift it so that it matches up with the drawing underneath to check that the proportions are right and that our character's head isn't changing volume or anything. And when we are done, we can repeg our drawing and finish the pose. We'll label this A4 and draw a timing diagram. I would like one in-between drawing to bridge these two drawings. Next, we want the character to move her head up. But before we do that, we should get a breakdown drawing to help bridge that movement. Breakdowns are called nakawari sonko in Japanese, or in-between reference drawing, which I think is a better description. I'll have our character turn her head a bit while starting to move upwards. Honestly, this drawing feels a bit off, but a tip is that you shouldn't really dwell on a single drawing for too long. Keep moving and don't lose your momentum. We'll come back to it after we have our full movement down. We'll label it A5 with a triangle since it is a reference drawing. After that, we'll have our character move her head up. She's also going to be facing up with the chin up as well. When dealing with large movements, use the peg shift method to keep volume and proportions consistent. Note that I am using the A1 drawing for reference here as it is closer to the pose I'm imagining. We'll have her open up her mouth in a big, ugly yet appealing way. I think it takes real skill to make an appealing yet ugly drawing. Make sure to flip often between your drawings to check them against each other. Let's get the hair in there and finish up. Label it A6 and give it a timing diagram. For the next two drawings, A7 and A8, let's have our character's head move up and down like how someone crying would generally erratically move their head and shoulders as they take in and expel air. A7 will be somewhere in this position, slightly down and towards screen right. And A8 will move up again and slightly screen right too. And let's finish them up. Here's A7 and A8. One in-between drawing from A7 to A8 will help cushion the movement. Next, let's have our character's head start moving down. Again, I'll reference the A1 drawing and use the peg shifting method to get the volume correct. Let's have our hair fan out as I want this to be a big movement. And then let's label it A9 and our timing diagram. After that, let's start having our characters settle, and we'll probably need two drawings to get this to work. Here we'll have her shift her head screen left. Again, we'll peg shift to keep our volumes consistent. Let's get the hair moving as a secondary action, so the end should be facing screen right here. And that's going to be A10. We're also going to need an in-between here. Next, we'll have her ending settled pose. We'll just move her slightly to keep the movement alive, and we'll also have her eyes open up slightly here, still full of tears, and just keep them in this half-open position. We want this drawing to be ugly, but in an appealing way. Here, all her hair should be settled and in their resting position. We'll finish by labeling our drawing, A11 in this case, and I think one in between should suffice for the timing diagram. Lastly, let's have her quiver a bit, shaking in her boots just like with A2 and the A3 drawings. We'll trace over the last drawing, shifting the lines a bit and adjusting the amount her eyes close. This will be our A12 drawing, our last drawing, and I'll label it End. Let's take some time to look through our drawings and make any adjustments or fixes we need to do. I remembered that the A5 drawing was looking a bit funky, so let's redraw that now. I think before, that drawing had issues with the volume or head changing too much, but it's not a hard fix. Now is also a good time to go through the other drawings and just do a pass to make sure everything's on motto and working alright. Then we'll fill out a timesheet based on the timing I had written before. I'll leave the template for this in the description if you need it. I'll set this cut at 4 seconds. And we'll start with A1, move to A2. A2 and A3 cycle between each other for a couple frames, and then on to A4, and so on and so on. We already wrote our timing diagram on our drawings, so we just have to copy it over here. Once all the drawings are done, we can do a pencil test. There's a couple ways to do this. You can mount a camera or a webcam to a stand above your drawings, tape down your peg bar, and use something like OpenTunes to feed the video into it, taking a photo of each drawing and timing it out in the program. Check out my old traditional animation in OpenTunes tutorials for more information on this method. You can also do this with a smartphone and using either the built-in camera app or a stop-motion animation app to facilitate this. You can also just use a scanner and then time out the scanned drawings in the software of your choice. You can tape a peg bar to the scanner to keep the positions of the drawings registered. This is what I did, and I timed this out in After Effects. Yeah, looks alright. I think this could probably be taken further with more time. You can probably extend the scene, and I feel like the acting could be further pushed, and maybe we can even involve the hands in this a little. There are always places that can be improved in the animation. I think this is a good place for this scene to be for the couple of hours put into it, and I think it's a good first pass. Animating on paper is great. You get such a dynamic line full of life you really can't get by animating digitally. I also find that digital animators do things such as abusing the power of copy and pasting parts of the drawing between different animation cells, which gives a terrible result in the animation, and pretty much all your directors are gonna hate this. This habit is absent from animators who started with paper. Also, without the ability to undo your pencil strokes, I find that paper animators are often more confident in their drawings, and it shows in their work. Thanks everyone, that was fun to draw, and I hope you guys enjoyed drawing and animating too. This channel is supported by my Patreon members, and if you'd like to help keep this channel running, links are down below. Members get some extra content every month for as low as $1. Other than that, check out my social media, and I'll see you next time.